This is the Reviewing Network Live, a weekly stream of consciousness recording session where I sit back with you folks out there, talk about some of the big news stories from the past week, and some other things I found that might be of amusement to you out there. I think you might get a kick out of it. Now, these are more like audio podcasts and are much longer than my usual videos and are also, for the most part, unedited and will contain some foul language. So, if you're easily offended by that, I advise you to maybe step back a bit, maybe go somewhere else. But hey, if you're up to the challenge, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Thanks. And for the 50th time ever, we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Reviewing Network Live. And I'm tired. We literally just got back from packing everything up from the Steel City Con within the last hour. So I'm still very much a little bit drained, and I kind of was hoping that usually when I do these shows during the weekend of Steel City Con, I usually just try to focus on the weekend box office and then recommendations, because usually I'll save the stories for next week, but nope, Disney decided to completely ruin that this time around by having D23 happen, and a lot of news stories came out of that we have to talk about, and there's some other things I want to bring up as well, so I'm going to power through this. I am going to power through this. I'm just going to tell you right now, I am tired, I'm exhausted, but I'm going to power through, damn it. So this is going to be a fun one. I feel like this is going to be a very fun one. We have a lot of things to talk about, and I'll try to get through this as quickly as I can, but if you've already heard the intro, you pretty much know what the show is about, so let's just go ahead and jump right to it, because there's a lot of interesting things to talk about in terms of news stories and the weekend box office, including some movies that I thought were going to do better, some that I thought weren't going to do good, and proved me wrong this weekend, so, but then again, what else is new? But anyway, on to the box office, the top 5 movies of the week, and we'll start with number 5, Despicable Me 4. $8 million, still hanging in there, 30% drop off from last week, bringing its 6-week total to $330 million, crossed the $800 million mark this weekend. What more can you say about that one? It's the only big family film out there right now, and we'll probably stick around in there until we get a good family film coming out, which I don't know when that's going to be, but yeah, let's go to number 4, because this right here is one of the more intriguing stories of the box office this weekend, in the fact that this movie bombed hard. The number 4 movie this week is Borderlands, the video game adaptation based off the popular video game, with Cate Blanchett, Kevin Hart, Jack Black, Ariana Greenblatt, Gina Gershon, Jamie Lee Curtis, directed by Eli Roth, produced by Avi Arad. They were expecting a whole lot more with this, and they put a lot of money into it, $110 million to $110 million to $120 million, somewhere in the budget area. And the reviews didn't help it. It got trashed by critics. It got a 9% on Rotten Tomatoes, a D+ on CinemaScore. The box office clearly shows for it. $8.8 million, which is not good for this movie at all. Not at all. And if you want to even add, it doesn't even have a worldwide gross total in there. This is the biggest bomb of the summer. And really, I mean, don't get me wrong, I thought the first trailer was okay, but then again, I like the feel. I never played the games before, so I don't know how close to the source material it is. Apparently, it's not even close whatsoever. And from the reviews that I've heard from it, and I just saw today that this was apparently cut down from an R rating to a PG-13 rating, which probably was the wrong move on their part, because this thing probably could have worked better as an R-rated movie. I don't know for certain, but I'm assuming it's going to work better than that. But what else was what was the other thing that I heard? I haven't seen the movie for obvious reasons, because I was doing the con this weekend, but the only thing I heard that's positive about the movie is Cate Blanchett, and the fact that Kevin Hart kind of plays it more straight than you would expect. Everybody else is pretty obnoxious or kind of pointless. You can tell the film has a lot of ideas similar to, Guardians of the Galaxy, Suicide Squad, Birds of Prey, and Yeah, the movie just looked like it was all over the place. I was giving it hope just from that one trailer I saw, the first trailer, but no, this is not very good. But Gearbox Software says, give the movie a chance, guys. Come on, the fans will love it. And no, the fans clearly do not love it. I mean, this thing has gotten thrashed by them. It's got like a 27% out of 100 on Metacritic. I think it's got like it was what was it on Rotten Tomatoes? Like for the audience rating. Let me see if I can find it here, because it was like really low. Let me see. Where is it? Come on. Try to get through this quickly, damn it. Here we go, I found it. Yeah, 50% on audience, on the Rotten Tomatoes audience score, which is not good for this movie whatsoever. But it is what it is. So there you go. Borderlands is pretty much DOA at this point. But let's go ahead and move on to the number 3 movie, number 2 last week, which was Twisters, which continuing to do very well. $15 million this weekend, dropping down only 34%. $222.3 million after 4 weeks. Worldwide, it hasn't done very good worldwide numbers. I mean, it's only brought in $87 million internationally. I don't know if that means I don't know if it still has places to open up at, but it's at $310 million worldwide, which, for a movie like this, I think it's not doing well overseas at all, but it's mostly making its money here in the U.S., but it's a hit. I mean, it's made more than what the budget was. I think it was around like $200 million, so it's already made its budget back, and it's probably going to make more money with a lack of competition going forward. Although we got Alien Romulus coming out next week, but that brings us to the number 2 movie, the other big new release this weekend, which, you know, I usually try to keep up with what's popular, like, in terms of like books, movies, music in general, so I have an idea of what people are into. And when I saw these trailers for It Ends With Us, and everyone was talking about how, you know, it's the book everyone's waiting for, I felt like a Thanos from Avengers Endgame when Scarlet Witch was just like, you took everything from me, and he's just like, I don't even know who you are. And but to Scarlet Witch, to Wanda's point after that, she said, "Oh, you will," and apparently we will indeed, because It Ends With Us, the number 2 movie this week, did really, really well. I mean, yeah, this is a movie that I did not expect to do well whatsoever. It's an adult drama, which have not done very well as of late, with a few exceptions. It's a book that I thought it didn't make sense for it to be a hit, the big hit that it was, but did pretty well, and far from that, it actually did really, really well. It overperformed, and this is the sleeper hit of the year so far. $50 million, which $25 million was the budget, so instant profit from here on forward. Also, Blake Lively, I like her as an actress overall, but I don't feel like I didn't feel like she was a top box office draw. But now, here you go. There's a movie that's riding on her, and she's one of the main people behind it. Her and Ryan Reynolds, of course, are leading the box office right now. We'll get to that in just a second. But he also actually wrote a scene for this movie. He wrote a rooftop scene with his wife in there. So I mean, that's kind of cool to see that. Like, it's kind of cool that I'm glad to see that she's getting more attention and she's getting more of a draw at the box office, because I've always liked her as an actress. She's been in a lot of movies I really liked. I really liked her in A Simple Favor. I thought she was good in The Age of Adeline, even though that movie wasn't that great. The Shallows was pretty good. The Town, of course. What more can you say about that one? I mean, I've always liked her as an actress. I'm glad to see that she's finally getting she's getting a draw as a box office star. But this movie could be granted, this movie could be very front-loaded. I mean, it made half of its opening weekend on Friday, which means that it's probably going to drop off quickly. But at this point, Sony will take it. Sony kind of needed something after. Let me put it this way: they haven't had as bad of a 100th anniversary as Disney and Warner Brothers did, but it's been nothing really that great to shout about, except for Bad Boys for Life and the Garfield movie. But Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire, which I like, by the way, was not a big hit, and then of course was not a big financial hit, and of course you got Madam Web in there as well, which need I say more about that one? But they needed a hit badly, and this is a big breakout hit for them, so it's going to make money back regardless. It's already made back its money from this point going forward, so good for Blake Lively. The reviews were not that strong in general. It got like a 59 on Rotten Tomatoes, which is not usually good, but Cinema Score is going to probably carry it through. A-, so yeah. we'll see what happens. I feel like it's going to drop off next week, but could stick around due to the audience coming back to it, if the audience is strong for it. But I think it'll be very front-loaded. Front-loaded is not what the number one movie is, which for the third week in a row, it is, of course. And that is, of course, Deadpool and Wolverine for the third week in a row, $54.2 million, only dropping 44% from last week. There was some speculation that It Ends With Us could probably upset that move, Deadpool and Wolverine, but by about $4 million. Deadpool came out on top again, $494.3 million after 3 weeks, bringing it past the $1 billion mark. Well deserved, man. I mean, what more can you say about this movie? It's a fun movie. Finally, we got the Madonna Like a Prayer versions from the battle scene and the choir online, which I highly recommend you listen to. I mean, and Deadpool crashed D23 too, and he was probably one of the best moments from last night's Parks presentation with the version of Like a Prayer done by the American Idol winner Abby Carter. So yeah, I'm glad to see Deadpool having success in the MCU, and hopefully this leads to a lot more fun and possible ideas here. But yeah, this is probably its last weekend, because next weekend it's about Alien and Romulus. So enjoy it while you can. But there is one more thing I want to cover with the box office in general. Well, before I do that, I'll talk about the Cuckoo, which is is it A24 or is it Neon? I think it's Neon. It came in at number 9 this weekend, $3 million, which I don't know if that's good or not. Budget was $7 million. Okay, it's good for them, but not quite Longlegs good, but it's going to make its money back going forward. And Longlegs actually has hit $71 million after 5 weeks, so good time at the box office overall, unless your name is Borderlands or Harold and the Purple Crayon, which Harold and the Purple Crayon, by the way, dropped near 50% this week. It's probably going to lose a lot of its theaters next weekend because of Alien Romulus. But yeah, so that's the weekend box office as a whole. But there's one more thing I want to cover, because I saw a story on The Hollywood Reporter this week, and I just got to say, we need to stop doing this. We really, really need to stop doing what I'm about to talk about here. So we're about 1 year, a little over a year after Barbie and Oppenheimer opened on the same day, and everyone made that the cultural phenomenon of Barbenheimer. And I'm bringing this up because ever since then, everybody has been trying to make Barbenheimer a trend, a thing. Like every time a studio two studios put out 2 blockbuster movies on the same weekend, or movies that they think are going to be blockbusters, they're all going to be like, it's the next Barbenheimer. You know, we had that with the Meg. I've made jokes about that. You know, when the Meg and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem came out 2 weeks after Barbie and Oppenheimer did, I made the joke about Turtleodon, but I even said back then it's a bad joke, and I essentially let that go, because yeah, Barbenheimer was a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and trying to repeat that over and over again, trying to make it seem like that it's going to be the next big thing that everyone's going to try to do, just, you got to stop. I mean, there was a thing on The Hollywood Reporter last month where Paul Mescal, who's going to be in Gladiator 2, he had a story which said, it would be amazing if Gladiator 2 and Wicked replicated Barbenheimer. Which, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, because Gladiator 2, I'm sorry, I'm still not in the belief that Gladiator 2 is going to be a movie that's going to be the massive hit that you think it is. Wicked probably will be a much bigger hit overall. Easily probably will be a much bigger hit, especially considering that NBC has been playing it over the Olympics like crazy, and they're really pushing the marketing campaign on that one. But yeah, but that's an actor saying that, and I feel like he's kind of have to say that because his PR person probably told him maybe take that idea that maybe this could be the next Barbenheimer, but cannot. It really was not. But I'm bringing this up because this week, of course, we had Deadpool and Wolverine has been out for a couple weeks, and then we have Blake Lively's It Ends With Us. And there's literally a story on The Hollywood Reporter that says, can Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively pull off Barbenheimer 2.0? Which, okay, first of all, like I said before, Deadpool and Wolverine's been out for 2 weeks. Second of all, It Ends With Us is a new release coming out this weekend. Third of all, like, that doesn't even make any sense. Like, why this is why it's like, why would you even think that this is going to be on the same level as that? Like, just because Barbenheimer was the big trend last year doesn't mean it's going to keep happening with every single time two blockbusters come out on the same weekend. Just stop. Stop trying to make everything Barbenheimer, because it's not going to be Barbenheimer. Like, there's a more interesting dynamic to this particular weekend, because, you know, if you actually read the story, it actually starts off with some interesting history, because, you know, it says here at the beginning, the last time a married couple had their films top the domestic box office was 34 years ago. In 1990, Bruce Willis's Die Hard 2 stayed atop the charts in its second weekend with $14.5 million, and Demi Moore's Ghost opened in second place with $12.2 million, not adjusted for inflation, which, you know, that just tells you how far we've come in the 34 years since the last time this has happened. If $14 million is seen as something that's considered the number one opening for a movie, like for not even an opening, but for the number one movie in general, which nowadays, if that happened in the summertime, it'd be like that movie would be a bomb instantly, or just be a bad summer in general. But the whole idea of this whole thing being our Barbenheimer moment just does not make any sense in this case whatsoever. And I'm reading a paragraph right here. Some are pitching the dueling Reynolds-Lively movies as a showdown, but the opposite is the case, according to insiders. Reynolds, a marketing savant, and Lively hope the two very different films result in a Barbenheimer moment whereby both films become top of mind, which I don't think that's going to be the case, especially considering that It Ends With Us was very front-loaded on the opening weekend. But I don't know. Like, I just don't fit. I hate this idea that once a trend begins to take shape, and everyone just decides to, like, continue, like, do whatever it takes to make it continue to be the next big thing. Like when last October we had The Exorcist Believer and Expendables come out around the same time. You know, people were thinking it was going to be Expendableevables. Like, the Expendable is like I said before, it doesn't work with every single movie that comes out. It just doesn't. Like when The Equalizer 3 and The Nun came out, they were doing the same thing. Like, they were trying to make the next buzzy word for it. Like, you just can't do that with every single time. Every single time as blockbusters come up, two blockbusters come out on the same weekend, and think it's going to be the same thing over and over again. It's just not going to happen. And this is just another example of that. And it's just like, just stop. Just let Barbenheimer be a trendy thing that happened last summer. Move on to something else, and just stop trying to make everything a trend. Pretty much is what I'm trying to say here. Stop trying to make things happen when they're not going to happen. Like, just enough is enough. Like, I feel like the guy with the meme. What was it? Filthy Frank, I think it was. Yeah, Filthy Frank. Like, this is me right now.
Time to stop. It's time to stop, okay? No more. Where the fuck are your parents? Who are your parents? I'm gonna call Child Protective Services. It's time to stop.
That's me. That's me whenever I think about this whole thing. It's just like, this needs to stop now. Like, and we could probably use that for a number of different things, but like, just stop trying to do this with every single time we get two blockbusters on the same day, because it's not going to be the same thing with every single weekend two blockbusters come out. It's just not. So yeah. But luckily we're not going to have that for a while now. I don't think we're going to get another blockbuster caliber weekend until let me see, because the next big one after this weekend with Alien is going to be Beetlejuice in September. And then after that, it's nothing really, like, there's nothing really close to that could be on the level of Barbenheimer. So, like, bottom line of this whole thing is just stop trying to milk something just because it's a buzzy word and you want to use it. I don't use buzzwords a lot, and I try my best not to use it unless I really have to do it in a specific situation. And this is just one of those ones where it's just like, enough is enough. Let's just move on. But speaking of enough is enough, there is something I want to get to before we get to the D23 stuff, because It's just been something that's been getting on my nerves this week, especially around here in Pittsburgh. I think you know what I'm talking about, but if you're not, stay tuned and listen in. Actually, me being tired this weekend is probably good, so I can get some frustrations off my back. Because man, let me tell you something. Let me tell you people something. If you people aren't listening to this in Pittsburgh, be grateful, because I'm guaranteeing you the last week of what's been going on with the Steelers and just the way everything's been kind of building up to some of the stories that's been going on around here, especially with the preseason. Has not been pretty. It has not been a pretty week if you are living in the Pittsburgh area, because the big story around here is, of course, basically around the NFL in general, is the fact that the Brandon Aiyuk situation. Brandon Aiyuk. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Brandon Aiyuk is he's currently playing for the San Francisco 49ers, and there is this belief that he's going to be. There was this belief early in the week that he was going to be traded. In fact, this has been something that the Steelers have been trying to do for a number of years, and for a number of months, I should say. Years, good lord, but for a number of months, and ever since the end of the draft, and the fact that they traded away Deontay Johnson to the Carolina Panthers for pretty much pennies at this point. But this has just been one of those weeks where it's just like it's been something that's been building up for a number of weeks, and then this week, somebody who I would like to call Pitt Bayless, people around here probably know him as Andrew Filipponi, he's been really pushing this idea that Brandon Aiyuk is going to get traded to the Steelers, and it began on Monday. I have the tweet right here. Sources: the Steelers are working hard on a trade for Brandon Aiyuk, and the deal could get done soon. 49ers seem motivated now to get something done. Now, if that was just the one thing, if that was just the only thing that people could could come from this, and we just have to wait and see if it actually happens or not, then I wouldn't be even talking about this. I wouldn't even be bringing this up. I'd be just kind of like, okay, all right, that's cool if that actually happens. But if it doesn't, I wouldn't be surprised, because the Steelers, they've really put themselves in a situation where I feel like they made the wrong move by trading away Deontay Johnson for nothing, when it seems like they don't have a plan to get the guy that should replace him. I mean, George Pickens is now the number one receiver, but at the same time, it's I don't know. It's just a really baffling stuff here. But this is just. But if it just ended with that, then we probably wouldn't have even brought it up. But as soon as that broke, everybody started talking about it, even to the national circuit. This is Adam Schefter on Pat McAfee not too long after this, and this is what he had to say.
I think every team out there just is wondering, the longer this goes on, do we jump in and make a call on Brandon Aiyuk? Would they listen to our offer? New England certainly, I'm sure, would love to have a guy like Brandon Aiyuk, but again, it takes two sides to tango. You got to satisfy the 49ers if you're ever going to make a deal, and the player has to be willing to take the contract from your organization. And even though he doesn't have a no-trade clause in his contract, he has an unofficial no-trade clause, Brandon Aiyuk does right now, because if he doesn't want to go to a team, he could say, I'm not taking that contract, and then why is that team going to give up the amount of compensation it would take to go get him if they know that they can't get him under a long-term deal?
I thought you were going to say the unofficial trade clause was the fact that the Niners say we can have him for 3 more years if we want. We got 1 more year in the contract and we got 2 franchise tags. Yeah. I thought that was the unofficial no trade clause that is being held by one particular party in there.
And Judah,
Brandon Aiyuk has got an unofficial no trade tag, or an unofficial no trade clause, because he has the ability to say to these teams, I'm not taking a deal if I don't want to go there. And if he's not taking the deal, then why would the team give up assets, draft capital, to go get a guy like that if he is showing or telling them
Has that happened?
He's not willing to commit there long term?
Has that happened, do you know of, or are you just saying hypothetically?
We're talking hypothetically right now.
Okay, yeah, because this has happened in the past, obviously,
Yeah.
where teams have wanted to make a play for somebody, and then the player has said, we are not going to agree to a deal if you trade for us. So it's a waste of assets, and it's never going to happen. That is taken.
All right, so that's basically kind of the gist of there. But Andrew Filipponi decides to say this as this backs up Aiyuk to the Steelers because Aiyuk can refuse to sign a contract extension with teams he doesn't want to play for. We know he wants to play for Pittsburgh, and this was kind of an argument that they were making back around free agency when somebody put a picture of Mike Tomlin and Brandon Aiyuk and said these two look alike. Like they do look like they could be related, like they could be brothers. But Brandon Aiyuk apparently liked that, and he's been saying that he likes the idea of coming to Pittsburgh, which, look, I'm not saying it's a bad idea. If Brandon Aiyuk could come here and the Steelers could get him at a reasonable price, I would take him, but think about what essentially happens here with Brandon Aiyuk, because what Brandon Aiyuk wants is somewhere between $25 to $32 million per season, and it's just something where it's just like you're putting in a lot of money for somebody that could be for a team that's not really ready to compete for a Super Bowl yet. I mean, just if you watch the preseason game this past week with against the Texans were eating them up like it was the regular season in September, like that game they had last year. It felt like that because the Texans were essentially just doing the same thing they did back then, except in Pittsburgh, and the Steelers just looked like they were just jumbling all over the place, and they just had nothing. They had nothing really going for it. Put it this way: the best quarterback that played that day was not Justin Fields, it wasn't Russell Wilson, it was Kyle Allen. Kyle Allen. A guy who was there to just be kind of a backup in general. Like, there's no way Kyle Allen's going to win the job as the starting quarterback. But you know what? He's making a case to stick around if the Steelers can't decide who to go with Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. I mean, I'm not ready to jump on the Steelers passing on Russell Wilson for Justin Fields just yet. We need to see him play first. Like, if it's a situation like in Denver where he's not going to play, Russell Wilson isn't going to play in the preseason, they're going to wait till the regular season starts, I think that's going to be bad news for Russell Wilson. Like, Justin Fields, the little bit of time he had on there on Friday, looked okay, he looked pretty good, but they didn't get into the end zone. They didn't get into the end zone until Kyle Allen started playing. And for some reason, they decided to go for two on both touchdown drives, which eventually was the reason why they lost that game. But that's another conversation altogether. But let's get back to the whole idea of the Brandon Aiyuk situation, because this whole thing started on Monday. So you figure if this is actually going to happen, we should hear it in a couple of hours. A couple of hours go by, nothing happens. Then all of a sudden, somebody says. Cam Marino, who is I believe it's the third cousin of Dan Marino, said that I guess he's an NFL insider, but he said he's reporting that Brandon Aiyuk has been traded to the Steelers, which ended up not being true because nobody else was saying it. Like, if something is going to happen, it's either going to come from Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, or somebody working at NFL Network or ESPN. I'm not trusting anybody like a third party. Like, I don't trust Antonio Brown's CT ESPN on anything. Like, he's the guy that said that Justin Simmons was going to sign with the Steelers. This was about a couple months ago. He never signed with them. He's still a free agent. I mean, it's not saying that he can't, but at the same time, like, stuff like that, you can't trust people like that. And so, Andrew Filipponi was just continuing to put these tweets out there saying that, no, this is going to happen, this is going to get done. And, he just kept putting these tweets out. And there's even one that says, sources, it's not a done deal, but the Steelers are confident they're getting a trade done for 49ers wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk. And then the next one, sources familiar with the 49ers Steelers Aiyuk trade negotiations, it's at the goal line. August 5th, the Commanders have removed themselves from trade talks with Aiyuk. And 49ers are trying to publicly pressure Aiyuk into accepting a deal to one of two teams because they like those trade packages better than what the Steelers have offered. I don't think Aiyuk wants to play for the Patriots or Browns. Very messy. Patriots maybe because they're starting anew. Nobody wants to go to the Cleveland Browns. I mean, Amari Cooper literally said when they were trying to put him as part of a package to get Brandon Aiyuk, he said, I wouldn't have been against the idea, but it was Brandon Aiyuk that essentially said, yeah, I'm not going to let you do that. So this continued on all week long, and There was a lot of things that said the Steelers are out. No, the Steelers are back in. Steelers are out again. Steelers are back in again. 49ers are potentially sending him to New England. That didn't go anywhere. Potentially sending him to Cleveland. That didn't go anywhere. This whole thing has been going on all week long, and the radio stations around here have just been, they've been feeding this idea that this is going to happen instead of just actually waiting to see what happens. You know what it reminded me of? This whole thing reminded me of something that happened on the problem with Jon Stewart, where he did an episode talking about the problem with the media. It's a really great video for a really underrated show that really could have gotten me to watch Apple TV, to purchase Apple TV Plus, but then they canceled it. So yeah, thanks Apple, you just lost yourself a customer. But on this, they talk about, as Jon Stewart talks about, how the media can over-exaggerate everything. The big focus is they're talking about the Donald Trump collusion report from Robert Mueller. And they were setting this up like this is going to be like a grand event where Donald Trump's finally getting what's coming to him, and then one person was literally just like the empire has been saved, and Jon Stewart they cut back to Jon Stewart going like, we're not a fucking Tatooine, and he's literally telling them, calm it down. I mean, even after they've literally said there is literally a chance that nothing will come from this whole thing. And then when that report finally came out, and all these networks like NBC, CNN, I think Fox News as well, like they were like looking at their chops, just like, oh, here we go, here it is, crunch time. And they had these big blocks where they were going to talk about this report. They didn't get the report until 4 hours after it was posted, and they had to print it themselves. They had to go online and read it first before they even got a chance to talk about it. They basically didn't find any collusion in the report, and it didn't help that a month before that report came out, they were saying on television that there was a good chance that nothing was going to be in there. And Jon Stewart essentially went off on mostly CNN and NBC for over-exaggerating it to a point where, nothing was going to come from that, and sure enough, when it came out, nothing ever came of that. That's what this whole week has been like, because ever since that first tweet came out, it's been nothing but just like on 93.7 The Fan, which is where Filipponi does the radio shows on there. They've been talking about it nonstop, and the longer this gets dragged out, the more people are getting frustrated that it hasn't happened yet. And the fans let them know about it on one of the shows this week.
Hi, Tony.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I was really excited about this trade when, I guess it was back in March, Aiyuk tweeted out that him and Tomlin were like twins, and I was like, oh, imagine if that guy got here. But the way you guys have salivated and butchered and miscalculated everything, I kind of hope we don't trade for him now because of you guys.
Wait, what?
Did I stutter?
We got a tough guy on the line. When you say you guys, who are you talking about?
The local Pittsburgh sports reporters.
Oh, because we're all one monolith. Everybody has the same ideas. Did I stutter? I'm not running cover for him. How am I running cover for Filipponi? I tweeted his tweet. I had him on the air.
You blamed his agent. You blamed the Steelers sources. You blamed the player.
I didn't do any of that. You're lying now, Tony. You're lying now.
Go back and listen.
I said, here's what I said, liar. I said, Pony better be right. Tony.
I got you, Joey.
Tony. Let's give him a hand.
Joey.
Let's give him
I mean, I guess, I don't know. I think it was somebody from, it was somebody else who was basically, but I don't know if that was actually a fan or not, but at the beginning, he's making all the good points because, like, we haven't heard anything about this. It's been radio silence from the 49ers and the Steelers about this whole thing, but they just keep building this up like it's going to happen, and the problem is, Andrew Filipponi has usually been wrong most of the time, and take, for example, something that he wrote recently. This is back on August 2nd. Pirates will sweep the Diamondbacks. Pirates have Paul Skeens and Mitch Keller going this weekend. Diamondbacks don't have closer. All-star cleanup hitter is on IL. the Brooms will be out. Yeah. They did not sweep them. In fact, they have been 1-8. I think either 1-8 or 1-7 since then, because they lost today. They got swept again today by the Los Angeles Dodgers after a gut. The Pirates right now, they're like that with the Pirates too. They think that the Pirates are finally gonna get past the troubles of the last 50 years. Like, this is finally going to be the team that's going to make it back to the World Series. This is going to be the team that makes it back to the postseason. The Pirates ain't making the postseason, especially after the way this team has just collided, has crashed in the last month or so. Like, ever since they've made the trade deadline, all the new acquisitions they've had have been terrible, and it made the team even worse than they were before. But it just keeps getting worse. It just keeps getting worse, and he was so hell-bent that this was indeed going to happen that he continued on with this all week long. And so this continued well into Thursday. Was it Thursday or when? It was either Thursday or Wednesday or Thursday. When was this? August 6th. That was Tuesday. Tuesday this came out first. Breaking. Steelers believe they are the frontrunners to land Brandon Aiyuk. They believe they will find middle ground with Niners on trade compensation. That's not breaking news. Like, you're like Fox News whenever they say a Fox News alert, and it's mostly an opinion. Opinions are not breaking news, and this is not breaking news at all. Like, Steelers believe they are the frontrunners to land Brandon Aiyuk. You know, the thing that they've been saying for the last 4 months now, and he keeps going. Patriots have decided not to explore any further trade possibilities. This is from Adam Schefter, and Filipponi's just like, more proof that the Steelers are the front runners. And this just keeps going on and on and on and on. It was like this all week long. And he was still going for this, and this is him on August 7th. Sources. Barring a last-second change of heart from the 49ers, maybe, or Brandon Aiyuk, doubtful, the Steelers are expected to trade for Aiyuk by the end of the week at the latest. It's the end of the week. Still nothing. Still absolutely nothing whatsoever. And then later in the day, sources. The Steelers have a verbal agreement in place with the 49ers for Brandon Aiyuk. All the terms of the deal and contract details are being hammered out now. The wide receiver is coming to Pittsburgh. Nobody else was reporting this. Not Adam Schefter, not Ian Rappaport, not anybody from ESPN or NFL Network. Andrew Filipponi was the one that was saying that the deal is done, the wide receiver is coming to Pittsburgh. Yeah, spoiler alert, that didn't happen. Brandon Aiyuk is still a 49er right now. Like, this whole thing has just been baffling, and this is a situation where if Andrew Filipponi is completely wrong about this, and he ends up not going to Pittsburgh or goes with another team or stays with the 49ers, this guy should be fired from his job, because this is getting old fast. Really fast, because it just keeps going all week long. He's been talking about this whole thing like this is going to be a done deal, like this is going to happen. No, I'm going to hold on to this for the long run. I mean, I'm not the crazy one here. You're the crazy ones. Y'all are the crazy ones right now, and so far he's the crazy one. He's the crazy one right now to say that this is going to continue and going to actually happen, and it's just it's just a really, really bad situation here, and like it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse every single time. Like they keep dragging this out, and it just got to the point when on Friday, the 49ers basically came out and said we're waiting. We're going to keep waiting. We're going to wait this out, because that's what they should do, because they have more leverage here. They've got Brandon Aiyuk. They could put him on the franchise tag for the next 2 years, and if they really want to get rid of him, they won't get rid of him at the start of they'll wait until either the start of the regular season or wait till the very end of the trade deadline, and even then, that whole thing will be completely pointless for the Steelers to even go after him. But like it's. And it just keeps going. Like, Andrew Filipponi is literally the equivalent of Pitt Bayless. Like, he's literally the equivalent of Skip Bayless. That's why I call him Pitt Bayless, because nearly every prediction he has been wrong, badly wrong, and he just like it's almost to the point where it's like trolling at this point. Like, I'm not convinced that he isn't trolling people. Like Matt Mumba, we've talked about him in the past. He's done those videos about Skip Bayless. If I really could have the balls to go on and find all the tweets where he's been wrong, this would be a series that would probably last months, maybe even a year. Like, it's that bad. It is that bad on how bad this guy and just Pittsburgh sports media in general really is. Because if you want my honest opinion about this whole thing, it's getting to the point now where, at this point, I don't want to see Brandon Aiyuk as a Steeler, because not because he wouldn't be a great addition to the team, but I'd rather the Steelers focus on this season, because I don't think they even know what they're doing at this point. I don't even think they realize what they're doing right now. Yeah, they made some smart investments. Getting Russell Wilson and Justin Fields for mere pennies on the dollar, and then, letting the teams that they were at before take care of most of the paychecks in general. That's a good decision. That is a good decision on their part. But then getting rid of Deontay Johnson for nothing, which, by the way, if they had Deontay Johnson at this point in the offseason, this whole thing would have been over with. Like, he probably would have been here at this point. Brandon and I probably would have been here right now if the Steelers had just traded Deontay Johnson to him. But of course, they didn't do that. They traded him to the team that's gonna not use him at all this last season, this upcoming season, excuse me, and then just he'll go play for some other team. He'll end up playing for Kansas City at some point. I would not be shocked at all if they have Kansas City play there. Is to be placing Kansas City down the road, or a team that's going to be vying for a Super Bowl. Like, maybe he will end up in San Francisco, but here's my thing. The reason why I don't want Brandon Aiyuk here, not because of the player itself, but because of the money. And apparently I'm the crazy one for thinking that, because, Juju Smith-Schuster, he got cut by the Patriots. Of course, he was a Steeler. I'm the one that's saying, you know what? Instead of focusing on all this on Brandon Aiyuk, why not get a guy that's been in the system before, kind of got a bad rap, especially considering what happened in the last year he was here, where he basically got injured in the first half of the season and didn't play until the playoff game against Kansas City, where he benefited, especially considering that he was still very injured, and and then they let him go. They let him go to Kansas City, won a Super Bowl there, actually contributed to the Super Bowl they won in 2022. And then he was in New England. Yeah, he was a traitor for a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. Even I was like Kylo Ren in Star Wars: The Force Awakens when I saw Juju Smith-Schuster go to the Patriots. I was just like, traitor! Like I was literally mad that he went to New England. But luckily he didn't do anything of noteworthiness there. So yeah, I would not be totally against the idea of having him go back to Pittsburgh. And apparently me saying this makes me the crazy one. Like, my friends that I talk to on social media think I'm crazy for saying this. Like, they think that Juju Smith-Schuster's a bum. Juju Smith-Schuster doesn't... Juju Smith-Schuster's a bum because Juju Smith-Schuster's a bum that has a Super Bowl ring and contributed to the Super Bowl that he won it in. Yeah, total bum, guys. But yeah. So, yeah, I'm the crazy one that thinks that Juju Smith-Schuster should come back to Pittsburgh, and I think it's a better investment for them, because, let's be honest, Brandon Aiyuk is going to want a ton of money to come here, and, yeah, you're in a situation right now where you don't have to worry about the cap hit and all that, because you got two quarterbacks who are basically costing you not that much, but you still got to pay guys like Najee Harris, you still got to pay Pat Freiermuth. Those are two key pieces of your offense right there. TJ Watt and Minka Fitzpatrick are going to get paid pretty soon. What happens in the future? Like, what do you plan to do about Cam Hayward? Like, those are things that I think the Steelers really need to focus on here. And I think San Francisco wanted was, they wanted 2 firsts, which I would have said no right away if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm not giving you 2 first-round picks for Brandon or a wide receiver. I mean, that's almost as bad as trading 3 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson or Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, which, of course, happened in Denver. See, of course, what happened in the past. But they also wanted to get a player from here. So, and they wanted a wide receiver too. And I'm just like, there is no benefit to any of this whatsoever because you already got rid of one wide receiver earlier in the offseason with Deontay Johnson. And they wanted to someone said put George Pickens in a trade package. And it's just like, okay, then who's your wide receiver 1 and 2 going to be? Isn't that the whole reason we're even considering this option right now? And and I know why the Steelers are doing this, because they missed out on every opportunity possible to get one of these top free agent wide receivers. I mean, they missed out on a number of different opportunities to get the wide receivers that were coming out of this free agency period. And yeah, big mistakes overall. Like, they could have had Odell Beckham Jr. They let him go, but he got signed to Miami. They could have had Marquise Brown. Now he's playing for Kansas City. Gabe Davis, Darnell Mooney, Calvin Ridley, Mike Williams. Could have gotten all those guys, but nope, you missed out on all those. Could have gotten Tyler Boyd. There was a lot of conversation about Tyler Boyd coming back to Pittsburgh, but because of course he was a Pittsburgh Panther, but nope, he went to Tennessee. And you know, what about Stephon Diggs? You know, Stephon Diggs was coming out of Buffalo. He's had some he's been kind of seen as the team cancer by some people, and so who knows what happens to him? Maybe the Steelers cut a deal with him, gets traded to Houston. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, he's playing in Buffalo right now. So yeah, bottom line is that the Steelers are fucking up right now. Yeah. And it started, I think the moment the red flag should have started was when they traded Deontay Johnson for nothing, and then traded Kenny Pickett for nothing. Kenny Pickett right now, like, he's been getting kind of a bad rap in Philadelphia, but I don't know. He looked pretty good against Baltimore on Friday, but then again, it was just a preseason game. We'd see what happens. Like, I would not be shocked at all if it's mid-December and the Steelers go to Philadelphia to play the Eagles, which, by the way, they have not won in 50 years, which is already a bad sign going forward. I would not be shocked at all if the Eagles decide, if Jalen Hurts gets injured, or injured in quotation marks, and says, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and play, and Nick Sirianni says, I'm going to go ahead and play Kenny Pickett, and Kenny Pickett just blows the door off of the Steelers in a situation where they're pretty much going to be either make or break at that point, because I really don't think the Steelers are going to be that good this year. Like, that'd be one of the most hilarious things ever if Kenny Pickett got his revenge on the Steelers by playing in a regular season game against the Eagles that could be critical to their playoff run. And that's in the middle of that dangerous, bad run they got at the last half of the month with the Eagles. Then you got to go to Baltimore, and then you got Kansas City on Christmas Day. Like, this is not looking good for them. This could either be make or break for this team. They could either be a team that makes the playoffs and shocks everybody, or more than likely, they'll probably end up being one of those teams that could contend for a high draft pick. Like, I'm really in a situation right now where I don't want to think this, but I don't have a lot of faith in the Steelers right now. I really don't. I really do think they'll be one of those teams that essentially will be maybe in a position to get one of these top quarterbacks coming out of the draft class in 2025. I mean, that's just how I feel right now, because the whole thing just seems flabbergasted right now. This roster does not feel like it's something that should be seen as a guarantee that this team is going to go places, especially with Russell Wilson or Justin Fields there. But then again, we have to wait to see what happens when it matters the most. And let's just say this. When I announced that I was going to be doing the live watch of the Steelers and Falcons season opener, I'm immediately regretting possibly doing that right at this point, because it's right now I have a lot of concerns going forward with this, but we will see what happens. But the whole thing with the Brandon Aiyuk situation just makes me realize how much I hate Pittsburgh sports media so much. I'm sure this is like this everywhere else, but the sports media around here, when something like this comes out and there's literally nothing ever since that first story comes out, they will do whatever in their power to defend it, even when it seems like there's literally no chance in hell that it happens. I seriously doubt that we will see Brandon Aiyuk in a Steelers uniform, at least for the foreseeable future. That could change maybe halfway through the season, or maybe next year when he becomes a free agent. But I don't think it's going to happen at all. That's just my thinking there. So So yeah, we have spent most of this show so far talking very negatively, but there were good things that happened this weekend, and let's talk about what happened at D23, because a lot of stuff broke that we should definitely talk about. So let's get off of Brandon Aiyuk, and let's actually, and the Steelers media in general, and let's talk about some good things coming out of D23, because, like I said, a lot of good stuff came out. So on a Friday, Disney had the start of their D23 Expo, and of course, late at night, 10 o'clock local time here, 7 o'clock on the West Coast, they had their big entertainment expo where Bob Iger came out and they did the announcements talking about some of the big things coming up over the next 2 years, because the expo usually takes 2 years to happen. For those of you who don't know what D23 Expo is, it's basically a Disney version of Comic-Con where everything Disney owns gets the star treatment at the Anaheim Center, or the Honda Center, I guess, at this point. But it's a big weekend that happens every 2 years. I think they've been doing something every other year in Florida with Destination D23, because they did that last year. But I'll get to some of the stuff from there that's being mentioned for the new parks in just a little bit. But we're focusing on the movies right now. And needless to say, a lot of things were mentioned and discussed. First off, we got a brand new trailer for Moana 2, which, you know, I love the first Moana movie, and I'm hoping that this is going to be good. But then again, this is a movie that is basically episodes from the Moana TV series that have been cut down into a movie, and that's my biggest concern going into Moana 2, is the fact that, you know, this is being cut down from a television series. And yeah, they got Oli Aquavalo and Dwayne Johnson back. They don't have the songs by Lin-Manuel Miranda in here, unfortunately, but I mean, it could go either way. I think the animation looks pretty good. It's good to see these characters back in the same roles again, but at the same time, nothing has really convinced me that this is gonna. I've got my concerns going into this, but then again, I've had my concerns with other sequels that Disney has done, and they've actually turned out to be pretty good. So I'm hoping for the best. We'll wait to see what happens there on November 27th. We also got a teaser trailer for Snow White, the movie with Rachel Zegler in the title role and Gal Gadot as the Evil Queen, respectively. And it's been a movie that's been heavily embroiled in controversy from what Rachel Zegler said about the 1937 classic movie, the original Snow White, which I don't think was really as controversial as made it out to be. I mean, she was basically saying that, like, the whole idea is she was basically insulted by the fact that, not even insulted, but she was, most people criticize her for misinterpreting feminism with accusations of promoting the girl boss architect of maligning women. That's, like, basically what she said was she wanted Snow White to be more feminist, and it actually led to the Daily Wire, of all people, making their own Snow White movie, which looks terrible. But this doesn't look any. I mean, I'll get to this movie in just a second. And then it didn't help that Peter Dinklage apparently went off on the fact that this movie didn't decide to cast actual dwarves as the 7 dwarves in here, and a lot of people got upset about that. So they basically had to redo the whole thing, and basically had to. Apparently there was something going on where, like, they had the footage already set up, but they basically had to redo everything again in terms of the visual effects in general, especially with the dwarves. But on top of that, like, there's just been a lot of controversy in general with the film itself. It's really hurting the film in general. Plus, this thing's got a big budget too, over $209 million. So they really had to come out of the gate swinging with this to really be something great. But I mean, I'll give it this. It doesn't look horrible. I mean, if anything, Rachel Zegler will probably easily be the best thing about this movie. I loved her in West Side Story. I think she's a great singer. I think she's a great actress. I've seen her in a lot of things that I really like. So I think she's going to be the one thing that will carry the movie through. Everything else, though, is really... I mean, it's... I'll say this, though. It does look visually interesting. It has a nice mixture of the bright colors from the animated movie, as well as some of the darker scenes in general. Like, there's one scene in particular I thought was pretty cool when, you know, Snow White is looking up and she sees this monster creature, and it actually turns out to be a baby deer. And I think that was actually in the original Snow White, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't seen it in a while, but stuff like that can be pretty cool. But the dwarves themselves are very iffy. And I really don't know about Gal Gadot's performance in this. Like, like I said, it's a teaser trailer. I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt, but right now I'm not cautious. I'm not too optimistic about it. It really says a lot when the one thing that I thought was really awesome was our first look at the live-action remake of Lilo and Stitch. Actually, not even the live-action remake, but Stitch himself, because, like, yeah, Disney has this problem right now with doing live-action remakes of pretty much every animated film they've done. I feel like they're at the point now where they have these movies that they kind of are being forced to put out now. Instead of just shipping them off to Disney Plus, they're putting them out in theaters, because Lilo and Stitch is coming to theaters next summer, and we got our first look at Stitch. And I gotta say, man, this is probably the most excited thing I saw from the movies that they had available. I mean, Stitch looks pretty amazing. I mean, Stitch himself actually looks really cool. Like, I like that he looks like the character that you'd expect to see from a movie about Lilo and Stitch. Like, he doesn't look fake. He doesn't look ugly. Like, he doesn't look like the first Sonic does. The first Sonic design. Like, it's not that at all. It literally looks like Stitch. And some of you out there may not know this, but Stitch is my favorite Disney character. I love him because he's a great mixture of he's a universally appealing character, because for the guys, like, he's a destructive force and he's not afraid to show it. But for the girls, it's just like he can look cute sometimes, and ugly kind of cute too. But that's the power of Chris Sanders, who is back as Stitch, and I think that's also something that's really got me excited for this. Like, I really don't think they would have done this movie well if he didn't come back to do this. But Stitch looks pretty amazing, and this is also being directed by the guy who did Marcel the Show with Shoes On, which was a great movie that came out a couple years ago by A24. Just a phenomenal film. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. I'm pretty sure you can find it on. I'm pretty sure you can find it on Amazon somewhere or Netflix. It's got to be out there somewhere. It's unfortunately not available on DVD or Blu-ray, which, kind of think of it, we're seeing that with a number of different movies. But yeah, that's the only reason I'm kind of looking forward to Lilo and Stitch, just to see Stitch himself. The rest of the movie could probably not look great. We haven't seen Lilo herself. We haven't seen the world around this character. We haven't seen what the aliens are going to look like. But he's the one thing I'm definitely looking forward to seeing. I hope this trailer that they showed at the D23 actually becomes a teaser trailer for it, because it's actually pretty damn awesome what they did with this.
The world of entertainment spans over 100 years. 100 years of takeover. Please remain in your seats. Everything is under control. Oh, no, wait, don't. This looks like a room he should not be in. No, don't touch that. Are we back? To announce that live-action Lilo and Stitch is coming to theaters summer 2025. I'm sure he's fine. Nothing to see.
They straight up murdered him. Like, I love that. I love the way that ended too. It's just like everything's under control, and then that happens. It's just like, how can you not think that they shot him or something? But that's a great teaser trailer, and I think honestly, you could really work around that. Like, you could have the whole thing where he's running around, and he hits the popcorn and all that. You could change it around from the Honda Center to like a movie theater, and like, it'd be really cool if they actually did that as a teaser trailer. Someone's also suggesting that they do what they did with the original Lilo and Stitch by having him going into live-action versions of the different animated movies, and I wouldn't be against that idea either, and I wouldn't be surprised if Disney has an idea of that too. If this movie actually is, I'm got more optimism for this just by the fact that Stitch looks pretty awesome, and he's my favorite Disney character, so I'm gonna check it out regardless. The movie could be terrible, but at least Stitch looks cool. So some of the other things that were mentioned, Incredibles 3 was officially announced with Brad Bird coming back, and needless to say, that's pretty awesome. I mean, the first two Incredible movies are great movies. I'm really curious to see what they'll do for this new one here. Some people suggest that maybe they should age the characters, which could be interesting to do. I mean, yeah, because the last movie literally takes place moments after the first movie. Why not do that? I mean, I feel like there could be a lot there that could actually work for that film. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. We got news updates on Toy Story 5. They gave us a small teaser for Toy Story 5 and this idea that Woody, Buzz, and the gang will be fighting to stop the new child from becoming an iPad kid. And the villains are going to be 50 Buzz Lightyears that have been that are manufacturally put together. Like, they're not the Buzz Lightyear that we know from, the Toy Story movies beforehand. So it's weird because it's basically saying that Toy Story 4 is essentially going to be retconned out of it, or maybe what I think was going to happen is that Woody will eventually join Buzz and the gang at some point, or maybe something will happen with Bonnie where she grows up and ends up giving up her toys, and something like that. Look, I like Toy Story 4. Did we need it? No, but it's definitely a lot better than I think a lot of people gave it credit for. I like Toy Story 4 a lot, so I really hope that doesn't mean that Toy Story 4 is going to be completely retconned and we're just going to pretend like it never happened, which I hope it doesn't. But it's Andrew Stanton directing it. Andrew Stanton is, of course, the guy that did Monsters, Inc. Pete Docter was the one that did Monsters, Inc. The guy that did Finding Nemo, WALL-E, Finding Dory. A great director overall, so if anybody's going to make this work, it's going to be him. So I'm hoping for the best with this one. I've not given up on the Toy Story films. Even though I didn't like Lightyear, which was a bad film in general, I'm not giving up on this one yet. Frozen 3 was officially announced for 2027. Not really showing off a whole lot, except Elsa and Anna riding a white horse and a brown stag. That's about it. And they said that their plans for a Frozen 4, and they showed off a little bit of the Frozen Broadway musical that's coming up. Zootopia 2 got announced, which was not much of a surprise. We knew that was coming, and the big story was that Ke-Huy Quan, who won the Oscar for Everything Everywhere All at Once, is joining the cast as a snake named Gary, which basically confirms that reptiles are going to be involved in Zootopia, which should be fun. Great movie, Zootopia, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do to expand the universe with that. Star Wars Skeleton Crew, which, Star Wars, I've said it before, I will say it again, I do not think Star Wars has been bad under Disney. There's been some ones that have not worked so well, like The Acolyte, I think, was a mixed bag. But they showed off Skeleton Crew. I am definitely looking forward to this, because this whole thing, it's a Star Wars show that's basically inspired by a lot of Steven Spielberg films like E.T., Hulk, The Goonies, Neverending Story, Explorers, because you have these 4 kids who get lost in the galaxy trying to make their way home, and you have Jude Law playing a Force user named Jad Nawood, and we only see him a little bit in this trailer, but I'm excited to see what they do here. We're seeing something that we haven't seen done with Star Wars yet with this, from the fact that this takes place in kind of like a futuristic modern setting, like modern city at first. So yeah, I'm really excited to see where they go with this. Kind of reminds me of Stranger Things in the Star Wars universe, honestly. So I'm really definitely looking forward to checking it out. That comes out on December 3rd. They showed off the trailer for Agatha All Along, which is really the only thing they showed off in Marvel that was really exciting and new, because they showed off the Fantastic Four First Steps trailer from San Diego Comic-Con, and that's about it. They showed the trailer for Daredevil Born Again, which kind of looks interesting. It's great to see Deadpool coming back after the Netflix show. That comes out on March 1st on Disney+. We got an update on Avatar 3, which is now being called Avatar Fire and Ash, so we're going to get to see the 3rd Avatar movie next year. And good. I'm glad we're not going to have to wait 13 years for the next movie. But I mean, now they have an opportunity to really expand on this universe. Where it's like, do something different besides what you did with The Way of Water. Let's really explore the world. Let's not do the same movie we did with The Way of Water. Because, yeah, The Way of Water was pretty much the same movie as Avatar. And it was really pushing its luck, honestly. Freaky Friday 2 is now Freakier Friday, and that's not really much of a surprise. Tron Ares, we got the first look of that, and I gotta be honest with you, I'm really not convinced that this is gonna be good right now, because it doesn't really look that engaging compared to some of the other movies, compared to the other Tron movies. Like, it's cool to see Jeff Bridges back again, which, he was in the last movie, but I don't really know exactly how this is going to transpire with a new film. I mean, I'm skeptical, but I like the last two Tron movies, so I'm really curious to see where they go from there. 9 Inch Nails is doing the soundtrack for it, too, so whether that's a good thing or a bad thing will be up to you to decide. Whether it comes out on October the 10th, so I'll see what happens there. Monster Jam, Dwayne Johnson announced a new project called Monster Jam, inspired by the monster truck driving event of the same name, and it's actually shooting right now. We don't really know too much about it, but it's apparently shooting right now, so we'll wait to see what happens with that one. We've got our first look at Pixar's first original series, Win or Lose, which looks pretty cool. They announced an Inside Out spin-off series called Dream Productions about the Dream Studio inside of Riley's head. They gave some updates on Elio, which is now going to be featuring Zoe Saldana as Elio's aunt, America Ferrera, Jamil, Brad Garrett, and it's now being co-directed by Donnie Sheet, who did Turning Red. And we got Hoppers, which is the new movie from We Bare Bears creator Daniel Chong. It's about a young girl who transfers her consciousness into a robot beaver in order to learn more about the world of animals. So it's kind of like Avatar meets the Angry Beavers, pretty much, which I think that's going to be cool to see. And then the last big one we got was Mufasa the Lion King got a new trailer, which I actually think looks a lot better than the 2019 remake. Even though I didn't hate the 2019 remake and everybody else did, this actually looks like it could be good. I mean, it's Barry Jenkins, so he did the Moonlight and the Underground Railroad, so I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm actually really looking forward to see what they do with this. Is it going to be great? Probably not, but I hope it's good. I hope it's at least something. The animals are emoting this time. That's more than worth it. That's more than got me interested to check this out. But they also mentioned some stuff about Ironheart, Andor Season 2, a little bit of The Mandalorian and Grogu, and Percy Jackson. So that was pretty much everything they mentioned in terms of entertainment-wise, like in terms of movies, television, streaming, you name it. But what about with the parks? And this was the one that everyone was curious about what they were going to do. And needless to say, Josh D'Amaro is making the case right now for him to become the future CEO of Disney with the way he presented this. So last night's Parks Expo presentation was pretty interesting, to say the least, because a lot of people were very excited to hear what kind of things were coming to the Disney parks, but they had a lot of performances that just felt kind of pointless, honestly. Like, I mean, they really did feel kind of needless in general, although there were a couple of good ones. Like I mentioned, Deadpool and Abby Carter at the end was really cool to see. They had Meghan Trainor doing a song, Feed the Birds from Richard Sherman, Rita Ora playing White Tees, Pentatonics, Billy Crystal, John Stamos for some reason, Dill, Chris, Skylar Aston, Ki-Hu Kwan. Just a lot of people in general were... And I was following through Twitter, which I recommend you not do, because you get so scared updating it, because you think you're going to see some news stories, and you click on it, and it's porn bots. That's literally what happened whenever I kept refreshing the page. All these porn bot pages came up, and they would say something like, Bob Iger just announced this, and then you see a scene from a porn video. It's just like they aren't even trying to hide the fact that they're doing it either. But when they did announce something, it was actually really, really interesting to see. See if I can... I'll start from the bottom down and go from there, because there was a lot of intriguing stuff that was announced. One of the big things that they're talking about, Disneyland 70s coming up, the 70th anniversary of Disneyland's opening, which we didn't get a whole lot of what was going to happen in terms of like what the plans were, but we did get one plan that they had, which will be that there will actually be an audio animatronic version of Walt Disney coming to the Disneyland park in terms of a show with Walt Disney and Magical Life, where they basically have Walt talking about, how he created Disneyland and how he created his empire as it is. And it will debut in the Main Street Opera House, and then after its initial run, it'll play in rotation with Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. And it's hard to believe that it took him 70 years to make an audio animatronic Walt Disney. I would have thought there would have been one already, but no, this is the first time we're going to see it, and it's very, very interesting to see how that's going to turn out in general. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what that's going to look like. They announced the Lion King ride coming to Disneyland Paris, or it's going to be named Disney's Adventure World. They are getting a ride inspired by the classic movie The Lion King, even though the concept art looks like something from the 2019 movie. It's supposedly based on the 94 movie, but there will be themed dining, shopping, characters, as well as the visitors stepping into the caves to follow Simba as he goes from cub to king. So that should be something kind of cool to see online, because I'm not getting out to Paris anytime soon, unfortunately. There's a Coco ride coming to Disney's California Adventure. A new ride is going to be breaking ground in 2026. And it drew inspiration from the Haunted Mansion and Pirates of the Caribbean, where guests will be taken to the land of the dead for a journey from the film. This one got a very polarizing reaction when it was announced. 2 Cars-themed rides will be coming to Frontierland in Magic Kingdom. They said that a portion of Frontierland and Magic Kingdom will be transformed into a pair of attractions based off the Cars franchise from Pixar. One ride will take guests off-road, and another will be geared specifically towards families with younger children. And this was met with a little bit of criticism. In fact, when they announced this, like, if you listen to the conference, there was a lot of people that did not really were that surprised. I think some people were actually booing too. But I personally don't think it's a bad idea in general to do this. Like, I think that you should have something like this in the Magic Kingdom. I mean, I see the concept art here. It looks like it could be fun. So I'm more cautiously optimistic about it. But it does look like they're going to get rid of Tom Sawyer's Island and Rivers of America to make this happen. But nothing has been confirmed on that yet. So we will wait to see more on that. One of the big things they announced was that a new Avatar land is coming to Disney's California Adventure, and it's going to be very different and set in a new location on Pandora, inspired by The Way of Water and the upcoming Fire and Ash, as well as future Avatar films. There will also be a new ride where guests will journey by boat on an excursion in search of majestic natural wonders that can only be found on Pandora. One of the big things they announced that the Destination D23 thing. This was the cool thing about this whole thing, because Josh D'Amaro was basically talking the year before about Blue Sky and like ideas that he had involved there, and apparently people were not too happy about that. He literally starts this off by saying, there is no Blue Sky. Everything that's going to happen here is literally going to happen. So everything that they announced here is apparently going to happen. And one of the big things they announced is that the Tropical Americas area is coming to Disney's Animal Kingdom that will replace Dinoland, which means that the rides they have there are going to go. Countdown to Extinction is going. And the 2 attractions are going to be based off the Indiana Jones franchise and Encanto. And the Indiana Jones ride takes place in an ancient Mayan temple that Indy has recently discovered, warning of an ancient mythical creature that could throw a wrench in the situation. And that was Kiyu Kwan, who joined him in the situation there, of course, was Short Route at Temple of Doom. As far as the Encanto attraction, it will see visitors traveling through the casita from the film on the day that Antonio receives a special gift culminating in his room, which has become a lush rainforest. Along the way, they will encounter all the members of the Madrigal family, perhaps including one that nobody talks about. No. Like, we don't talk about Bruno. But it'd be really cool to see how this works, because apparently the house is going to be moving too. So I'd be very curious to see how that one's going to pan out. But back to Disneyland, Avengers Campus is doubling in size with 2 new attractions, including new details on Avengers Infinity Defense, which is the ride with King Thanos. But bigger than that was Stark Flying Lab, with Robert Downey Jr. playing Iron Man again in both rides. So he'll be playing in an Infinity Defense as well as Stark Flight Lab. So, yeah, the whole idea that Iron Man is being basically dropped out for Robert Downey Jr. to play Doctor Doom, still believing that it's going to be a variant. There's a possibility that he will still play Iron Man at some point during the course of this. So this whole thing this thing could be really, really cool to see. I'd like to see Robert Downey Jr. do more things. Robert Downey Jr. is awesome. So this was one of the big ones here. Monsters Inc. Land is coming to Disney's Hollywood Studios. It'll form the backbone of the entire land of Hollywood Studios in Orlando. Billy Crystal helped introduce the new land. And the land will bring humans into the world of Monstropolis, with a signature ride bringing visitors into the door vault alongside Mike and Sully. There's also going to be a suspended coaster, which is actually the first one they'll have at Disney, which, I mean, it's a really interesting idea. And there was a lot of controversies about whether or not, are they going to replace the Muppets? Are they going to replace Star Tours? I don't think they're going to do that. I think the general design of this, I think, is going to be set up towards, I think if anything's going, it's going to be Animation Courtyard, where like the Magic of Disney Animation used to be at, now where Star Wars Launch Bay is. I think that's where that's going to go. I think that's what seems like the best logical sense to put that there. That area really does not have as much stuff there that could fit. It doesn't have a whole lot of exciting things there. You got Disney Junior, the Voyage of the Little Mermaid, which is shut down for another Little Mermaid ride. So it would not surprise me if Monsters Inc. ends up going there. I don't think they're going to get rid of the Muppets or Star Tours. I think they would have a complete backlash by a lot of people if that actually happened. But nevertheless, you think that would be the end of it all, but nope. They saved the best for last. This thing was literally over, and then, just like in the old days of Reggie Fils-Aimé and Nintendo, back at E3, they're just like, before we go, we have one more thing to show you. That's that type of moment that happened here. And the moment that is that there is actually, it was going to be either one of two things. It was either going to be a long rumored land or the long rumored fifth gate for a new theme park. But, the news was that it was going to be a new Disney Villains Land coming to the Magic Kingdom. So they're going beyond Big Thunder for this. A major new land will be built at the Magic Kingdom in Orlando, a land based off the Disney villains. Details are still slim, but it will include shopping, dining, and 2 new major attractions. The land will be home to the villains that you know and those that you love. Be prepared, you poor unfortunate souls, Josh Duhamel added. It's going to be a fearless new vision for what a Disney experience can be. And easily, this is probably Disney's answer to Dark Universe. That's going to be coming to the Epic Universe area, where they're going to have the classic monsters. They're going to have the Wolfman coaster and all that, and that area there dedicated to the classic Universal monsters. This has got to be Disney's answer to that, which then again, Disney and Universal have to compete. I mean, that's the reason why Disney MGM Studios even exist, because Universal was going to come in and take their territory, and Disney said, well, we're going to build our theme park and have it open before yours, Universal, and well, that's exactly what they did. But yeah, this is something that's been talked about for a while now, and it's going to happen. So it looks pretty cool. So it's definitely something that very interesting to keep a close eye on. But yeah, it's very interesting stuff they're announcing there. So it's a lot of optimistic things to look forward to at Disney over the next couple of years. Really can't wait to see what they do from there. But there was one more thing that happened at D23 I want to mention before we get on out of here. So let me go ahead and cover that. And that involves The Simpsons, which had a pretty interesting panel at Disney at D23, which they announced some things that were not at the San Diego Comic-Con. The biggest one being that there's actually going to be 4 new episodes of The Simpsons being exclusively produced for Disney+. Now, this isn't the first show that's going to be doing this type of thing. I mean, Family Guy has already said that, Hulu's already said they're going to do 2 special holiday episodes of Family Guy exclusively for Hulu. But for The Simpsons, this is a pretty big deal. I've got the story here from Variety. It says, as The Simpsons prepares to launch its season 36 this fall on Fox, this won't be the only place to catch new episodes of the long-running animated show. The executive producers behind The Simpsons revealed on Saturday at the D23 convention in Anaheim that 4 new episodes will exclusively air this upcoming season on Disney+. The new episodes include a new Christmas-themed 2-parter, Oh Come All You Faithful, will premiering on December 17th, tied to the 35th anniversary of the very first Simpsons episode. The other 2 episodes, The Fast and the Furious and Yellow Planet, will also air in the months ahead. Disney Plus said, and then in October, a new exclusive The Simpsons short that is Halloween themed will also premiere on Disney Plus. So, it's very interesting what they're doing here. I feel like this is the beginning of, they're testing this out to see if this actually works out, because The Simpsons does very well on Disney Plus, just like Family Guy does very well on Hulu. In fact, just recently, there was announced that Bob's Burgers and Family Guy would be dropping out of syndication, broadcast syndication. It'll still be on FXX and Adult Swim, but starting in the next couple of weeks, so not too much longer for Bob's Burgers and Family Guy on there. They're testing out whether or not streaming really is the way to go for the future. And with Family Guy doing this and The Simpsons now doing this, it wouldn't be surprising if they start doing more of these down the road. But I'm honestly looking forward to it. I'm honestly really excited to see what they do with this. So yeah, that was a pretty big story that they dropped there. Nothing else really more to go off of that, but yeah. So that is all the major stories here. Let's go ahead and briefly talk about some recommendations, and then I can get the heck out of here and go to bed because I am tired, man. And it's a pretty big week for big new releases. The biggest new ones easily being Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, which comes out on 4K Blu-ray DVD this week. The criminally overlooked film from this past summer, If, with Ryan Reynolds, directed by John Krasinski. One of my favorite movies of the year. It comes out on physical media this week. I'm definitely looking forward to getting my hands on that. The Bike Riders comes out this week, a movie that got pretty good reviews overall, but mostly mixed box office. So I'm kind of curious about that one. It's directed by the guy that did Midnight Special, Jeff Nichols, who also did Mud. Last Emperor is getting a nice 4K Criterion release, so I'm definitely looking forward to that. And that's going to pretty much do about that. There's also a movie I'm kind of curious about, The People's Joker, which is getting a physical release this week. I'm really curious to see how that one pans out, but that's about it. I mean, some big new releases in general this week, so it's a really good week to go out and go buy some movies. So I'm definitely looking forward to doing that this week. But with all that said, that's going to wrap this one up. And yeah, it was a long one. But we did it. We got through it. I did everything I needed to do. I think I'm going to go to bed because I am tired and I don't know if I'm going to be able to do anything else right now. There will be a Movie Stop episode coming up looking at the footage I got from Steel City Con. So that's coming up on the main channel pretty soon, as well as talking about the movie. So that'll be either tonight or tomorrow, more than likely tomorrow, because I'm tired and I just want to go get a shower and go to bed. So with that said, thank you so much for listening in and watching. And if you want to see more of these, if you like what you saw, hit the like and subscribe button. Check out some of the other episodes we've done. And that's going to do it. So thank you so much for watching and listening. And I'll see you guys next time. Until then, we are out.